Indeed, a very good afternoon to you. It is the 13th of March, the year 2023. Thank you for tuning in to Lunchtime News. I am Nisi Imano. We are here with the latest stories that are making headlines in this country and across the world. Thank you for joining us. Now, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, has dropped charges against former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i. According to Haji, the investigating officers provided insufficient evidence to warrant prosecution of the then powerful Cabinet Secretary.
After receiving an investigation file on allegations that the police raided the home of former Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i in February, the DPP has directed the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to close files against former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and his lawyer Danson Omari. The former CS was to be charged with conspiracy to commit a felony in publication of false information. Upon review, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, says evidence provided was not sufficient to sustain charges against Matiang'i and his lawyer, and directed that the file be closed with no further police action.
Now moving on, residents of Drought ward in Isiolo County are living in fear after two herders, a 62-year-old and a 40-year-old, were shot dead in the grazing fields of Mlango area. Speaking during the burial of two other herders that were killed by bandits, the residents joined area leaders in calling on the government to conduct a similar security operation in the neighboring area of Oldonyiro ward to combat bandits whom they believe are seeking refuge there. The killings of the two have come at a time when residents are still mourning over 10 people who have been killed in the area within a span of 2 months.
Tension is high in Drought ward of Isiolo County after two people lost their lives after being attacked by bandits. The residents have attributed the rise in security in the area to suspected bandits from the neighboring Samburu and Laikipia counties, who have fled the areas following ongoing intensive security operations and sought refuge in Isiolo.
Leo gamia 80 imeenda. Kwa hivyo sisi tunataka kuambia serikali ichukue hatua venye inahudumia watu wengine Kenya. Sisi tuchukue second class citizen.
Sisi yote ni yatima na jaba. Kwa akiuliwa Jumamosi, Jumamosi ile nyingine ni kulia ni maiti. Jumamosi ile nyingine ni maiti.
The government has been urged to move with speed and resolve the situation, citing that bandits from the disturbed areas that are currently under police and military security operation had fled their home areas and were now hiding in the neighboring ward of Oldonyiro in Isiolo.
Na kama hii kitu haijawahi kufikia kwa waziri, imfikie siku ya leo. Hii ni watu wa Drought. Sisi tunaumia na tunapigwa na watu ambao wanatoka Samburu County, tunapigwa na watu ambao wanatoka Laikipia, tunapigwa na watu ambao wanatoka Marsabit.
Na ngamia imeenda na watoto wamebaki yatima, mali imeenda, baba ameenda, watoto wataenda wapi? Na watoto kwa university na wako secondaries, watasomeshwa na nini?
Meanwhile, with the escalating banditry and continued killing in northern part of Kenya, Sharon Keter, a nominated member of County Assembly, has started an initiative where she visits schools in Baringo to meet with students from the warring communities.
But we want to teach these students to love one another, because at the end of the day, we've seen the government using guns and it's not working. If we can start with the children, these young children, and tell them that it's good to live peacefully with your neighbor. It doesn't matter if it's a Pokot, if it's a Tugen, or a Samor, a Ror, or even Endorois. They are all from Baringo. They are from Baringo and they are Kenyan citizens.
According to Keter, talks, motivation and spiritual nourishment is one way of helping students become good ambassadors at their villages towards a united, cohesive and peaceful Baringo.
When we bring these children to the schools, we don't bring them based on where they come from. We just bring them because this is a school where they come and live as a community, and there is peace, there is love, and there is unity. So our message is peace.
This comes as the 24-hour vacate notice lapses, with civilians living in 27 marked areas and spread across 5 counties targeted. The ultimatum issued by the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki expired on Monday 8:30 a.m. with the government now embarking on a new phase of the war that targets flushing the bandits from caves, forests, gorges and ravines. Timothy Kipnoso for Lunchtime News.
And Malindi and Magarini residents who depend on the Sabaki River for their livelihoods are staring at a catastrophe as the water body has stopped flowing owing to the ongoing drought. Farmers, fishermen and local communities using the river's water for their daily activities are a worried lot as most parts of the river have dried up, with the water forming small pools along the river.
Malindi and Magarini residents are grappling with adverse effects of climate change as the source of their livelihoods continue to dry out.
Hatujai kuona maajabu ya hii mto kwa namna hii. Hii river watu wengi wamechangia kuvuta maji kwa mashamba yao. Basi wameleta shida, mambo inakuwa hivi. Hatujawahi kuona shida namna hii.
Sasa hakuna maji galana yamekauka, tunateseka. Maji hakuna kabisa. Sasa tunafanya kuchimba kwenye hiyo ardhi ya galana ndo tunapata maji ya kunywa.
Wild animals, especially hippopotamus, have not been spared either, with the wildlife spending much of their daytime concentrated in small pools of water next to the Sabaki Bridge that connects Malindi and Magarini sub-counties.
4 resident hippos here, but then as the river widened and there were no longer pools where they could hide, they went down river towards the river mouth.
At a Goodwin, a resident says Sabaki and Burangi residents on each side of the river have been forced to scoop water from ponds made on the riverbed, noting that the water is highly contaminated and could lead to disease outbreak if taken without any form of treatment.
Inadequate supply of drinking water. People are coming to the river to fetch water, scoop water from the holes here they make. And I have been trying to stop these people because this water is heavily contaminated.
Irrigation imechangia maji hiyo kukauka. Sasa naomba serikali kama itafanya mikakati kuachilia maji au
The residents are calling on the government to control irrigation undertaken upstream to enable the river to flow without interference, and further urged the government to sink boreholes on the riverbanks to revive the Sabaki water supply so that locals can get fresh water. In Makueni, residents have been urged to plant trees to help combat climate change and expand the forest cover using available resources. Speaking during the launch of an initiative to plant 60,000 trees, Sarah Anupi, an environmentalist, urged the residents of Chulu to adopt the exercise, noting that it is unclear when the drought will end.
I encourage those people who have access to water, even if it's just a little, they should set aside some amount of water to plant as many trees as they can with the.
Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
Elsewhere, police in Busia County arrested 2 women suspected of smuggling heroin from Kampala to Mombasa at the Busia one-stop border post. According to the county forensic crime scene officer, Shay Motho, the narcotic drug has an estimated street value of around 20 million Kenya shillings.
Confirming the incident, Busia Acting County Commissioner Kipchumba Ruto noted that the multi-agency security team managed to nab the 2 women after the digital scanner detected the substance, which was well packed in the suitcase.
Inside the vehicle booth, upon search of that suitcase, 4 yellow sachets of border were recovered from a false section of the suitcase, and the officers suspected the same to be narcotic drugs.
Police revealed that Mombi Maura, aged 50, and her compliance Sharon Kweyu, aged 30, were found to be in possession of the 2 suitcases containing the substance on Friday night.
And we suspect that the digital weighing machine is meant to used it to maybe to weigh and sell the narcotics. And the 4 sergeants and the weighing machines was seized by the police. The suspect was also arrested and taken to Busia police station.
Police say the two will be arraigned once investigations are complete. The arrest comes just 2 days after the multi-agency security team blocked porous routes along the Kenya-Uganda border. Pauline Nasimio for Lunchtime News.
And on matters education, Kajiado County Governor Joseph Ole Lenku has challenged teachers and parents to play their roles toward improving education standards in the county. Education stakeholders in the county have raised concern about the low grades continuously being posted in national examinations by learners in the region.
Sisi kuwa hapa Oldonyo Sambu, shule ambayo ndio ya porini zaidi, shule ambayo inashikana na sehemu ya wanyama pori, shule ambayo hata kufika ni shida kubwa sana, imekuwa shule number 1 katika zone hii. Inamaanisha haiwezi kuwa ni kwa sababu ya mazingira, haiwezi kuwa ni kwa sababu ya ukosefu basic amenities. Hakuna amenities iko hapa. Tuliona kwamba kitu ya kwanza katika kufanya vizuri maishani na shuleni ni kila mtu ajitoe, awajibike katika sehemu yake.
There must be a change in the administration of schools, in the teaching of staff. There must be accountability and return of our investment. We call a spade a spade.
Elsewhere, communities living in Teso North, Busia County have benefited from free tuberculosis screening courtesy of USAID and KCCB Commercial TB program. Speaking in Malaba, the program officer, Hazel Onyungu, said they are working with the county government and had dispatched clinicians to villages to trace contacts with a view of screening and referring them to hospital.
We are currently implementing our TB control activities. This is our year 4 of implementation. We do not implement independently. We work closely with the county government of health, specifically so the Ministry of Health. Our focus as a program is to implement the TB control activities and support these activities in faith-based facilities and private facilities.
We decided Malaba because we were guided by our data based on the burden of TB across Teso North sub-county.
Moving on, the Law Society of Kenya in Embu County is raising an alarm over flawed certification and verification of documents in the country. The LSK says there is a high probability of an influx of unqualified members of staff in government offices.
The LSK members in the company of police detectives stormed the Kenya School of Government in Embu, where county government officials were conducting a staff audit. The DCI officers arrested 2 women who were allegedly conducting the verification exercise on behalf of advocates who were allegedly not at the scene.
We have documents being stamped. We have documents being signed by people who do not qualify as advocates under the Advocates Act.
The lawyers alleged that there are people posing as advocates and are using official stamps to validate documents at a fee.
And going forward, what we are saying is this: not only county-wise, but also country-wide, we are putting all brokers, all masqueraders, any person who purports to be an advocate and does not possess a practice certificate, that we are coming for you.
They further faulted the county government of abetting anomalies by asking staff to have their documents certified by a specific law firm at a standard rate of Kenya shillings 200 for all documents.
What we've actually established is a misconduct on the part of the county government employees. Some of them, we are not saying all of them.
Before any Kenyan gets a stamp from an advocate, please verify that advocate is a member of the Law Society of Kenya.
They said that they will be seeking intervention of the National Office to summon and discipline the county legal officers once the investigations are complete. Frederick Parsayo, Lunchtime News.
And a section of university students in Embu County have started an initiative to help street children in the region. The students, who have started a feeding program for the street children, are however urging parents in the region not to abdicate their duty, noting that the rate at which population of street children is growing is worrying.
During a visit to the ACK Children Rescue Center, the students from the Embu County Campus Students Organization expressed concern over the growing population of street children in Embu, stating that many have been subjected to poor living conditions despite the Constitution's right to free basic education.
Zingine ni eti hawajui venye wanaweza zitumia. Sisi tumekuja hapa leo kuwafunza kuinua hizo talanta zao. Tunaomba tu mwenye atafikiwa na hii habari anaweza tu support.
The students shared meals with the children and urged parents to ensure their children go to school, as education will enhance the chances for a better future. In Machakos, another group of youth from the Great Hearts Foundation based in Nairobi have donated foodstuff among other items to mercy servants of the poor in Kithioko location.
Huwa tunawaletea vitu mingi like food. Watu hawana place wanaweza toa chakula kuuza, hawana sponsors. So lazima waletwe chakula juu kama hamjawaletea hawana anything wanaweza tumia ama wanaweza kula.
Kama siku ya leo tumeleta vitu tu kidogo zile Mungu ametubariki nazo kama mchele, tumeleta pampers, tumeleta mafuta ile itawa sustain after 3 months.
Sister Mary Musembi, who is the founder of the home, expressed her gratitude and urged other well-wishers to step in and assist in offering help to the vulnerable.
We cannot thank them enough because what they do is just sacrifice. They don't give because they have, but they sacrifice so that we can have something to move forward.
Trevor Ngendo for Lunchtime News.
Bomet County is set to benefit from a number of ventures from the government of Malaysia. Speaking after hosting the High Commissioner of Malaysia in the country, Ruzaimi bin Mohammed, and the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce President Richard Ngatia, Bomet Governor Hilary Barchok said the assistance will include investment in agriculture, health and education, among other sectors as outlined by the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto.
Areas we really need to look at particularly is in agriculture. We want to look at manufacturing, which is very important for our country. We want to look at construction, where we are going to look at affordable housing, which is a ready market for not only the local businesses, but also investors who want to come and invest in affordable housing, and to look at the huge opportunities that are within the construction.
This business forum will provide the opportunities for linkages, partnership for trade and investment from the Malaysian companies. Kenyan businessmen, they have seized this opportunity and they are looking for partnership. And I know Malaysian companies, as they look for opportunities here, they can partner with our Kenyan companies for shared prosperity.
Realize that Kenya has the potential and taken the step forward to explore and exploit any opportunities existing in this country. The trade delegation from Malaysia here today comprises of companies who are in the areas of education, agriculture, manufacturing, ICT, health, logistics and transportation, finance and banking.
And here we are today ready to explore potential investment opportunities between Kenya and Malaysia companies to strengthen diplomatic relationships between the two countries, to build relationships, to gain insights on having a transparent, stable, and predictable investment climate.
Moving on, a section of elders from Luo community has criticized the move by opposition leaders to call for mass protests across the country. The elders are urging President William Ruto and the opposition leader Raila Odinga to dialogue, solve existing differences. Led by their leader Nyandiko Ogadi, the elders reiterated that the country needs stability and unity and that peace cannot be achieved through protests.
Sasa mimi nasema watu wote, watoto wote Wajaluo ungana kwa amani wa Kenya. Kama nyinyi natafuta maendeleo.
We are not for mandamano. We are not for that. We are for peaceful negotiations. And even if you can look what are the people, I mean, people who have the bigger senses, you will hear them talking of dialogue.
Water Services Providers Association, WASPA, has signed a pact to the local university to promote innovation, research and best practices for the provision of efficient and sustainable water and sanitation services. The partnership will see WASPA offer corporate training in human resource management, leadership and governance as it advocates for the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all.
It calls for innovation. This is a very important area because when you are talking of a higher institution of learning, this is where you have new thinking, new ideas, there'll be research and development, there'll be capacity building, and these are areas that our members require. You require a new skill set, and I think our collaboration today in areas of training, in areas of research, capacity building, innovations on how to make the services better.
This must be a collective responsibility for all of us to ensure that water management is done in such a way that it becomes sustainable, it becomes easy, so that people have adequate water.
The Kenyan government has been asked to act with speed and release funds meant to cushion the vulnerable persons in the society as their vulnerability is worsened by the current economic situation. Speaking in Ekambuli in Isiolo constituency, a team led by Patrick Mbidi says many Kenyans are suffering silently and do not know who to approach, claiming that many young people have neglected their elderly parents in the villages as they enjoy life in the cities.
Ni ombi letu kwamba pia serikali zile ahadi ambazo walitoa kwa hawa wazee wasaidie kabisa. Maana hapa ukiangalia utawaona wako hapa wengi sana. Wamekuja wakitarajia tumekuja na mambo makubwa tunataka kuwapatia ambao haiwezekani. Walikuwa wameahidiwa pengine watatengenezewa maisha yao yawe mazuri. Walikuwa wameahidiwa vitu mzuri, maisha mzuri, watakuwa wanapewa at least something at the end of the month. Haijakuwa attained kabisa. Maana wakati sisi tunatembea tukifanya research yetu tunapata kwamba kuna wazee huko nyumbani waliahidiwa wanalia.
When we come to the community, na hii serikali venye iko sahi, people are suffering. People are really suffering hapa chini. Sababu you can get unapata mse wa bodama ule wa mama wa mboga, the way president put it. Amekaa hapo hajauza mboga. Ama ile 500 alipewa. Watoto wanafaa waende shule. They're supposed to eat. They're supposed to dress uniform. Kunafaa vitabu. Surely, what can that 500 do?
Tunakujanga na vitu zenye already prepared. Tunakuja na chakula, kama ni watoto tuna identify wale wa kulipia school fees. But nilikuja nikawaambia this one we should do it differently. Nilitaka at least tupatie watu knowledge, tuambie ya kwamba tunaweza saidiana wenyewe.
Now, did you know that there is a dedicated team of scientists in Kenya that get their bread and butter from studying, rearing and experimenting on mosquitoes and the diseases they spread? A large number of people may say that these creatures are one of the most annoying they have ever encountered. In this feature, we get to learn about the different types of mosquitoes we have here in Kenya and the measures they can take to control the disease-causing mosquitoes. Take a look.
There are over 300 species of mosquitoes found worldwide. Here at KEMRI, we get to learn about 3 found in Kenya. At the Center for Biotechnology Research and Development, are the men and women who carry out the research on all things mosquito-related in Kenya. Meet Lucy. She has been working at KEMRI as a lab technologist for the last 35 years.
People from Kirinyaga know that we have this kind of a project, so they allow us to go to their homes. So we have already gone to this place called Mwenjero, and we have adult mosquitoes here. So I'll organize all of them according to their houses and according to the methods that they were collected with.
Damaris Matoke is the principal research scientist at the center.
So you'll have to divide it into.
Matoke tells us how she got interested in the study of mosquitoes.
I have grown up in a malaria endemic area where people have suffered from the disease, especially my brother who died from the disease. So it made me want to work on malaria so that I contribute also to eradicating of this disease in Africa and beyond.
Matoke further tells us about the different types of mosquitoes in Kenya, strategy control, and what diseases they transmit.
Mosquito causes malaria. We have diseases such as dengue. We have diseases such as chikungunya. We have diseases, even yellow fever. Those are mosquito-borne diseases. West Nile. Bed nets have like 3 mechanisms: a barrier, repellence, and also killing of the mosquito.
According to her, the mosquito species found in Nairobi do not transmit malaria.
Like the ones we see mostly in Nairobi, they are non-malaria vectors. They are not Anopheles, because the mosquito that causes malaria is Anopheles.
However, there are regions in Kenya affected by disease-spreading mosquitoes.
Malaria is common in western region, currently western region of Kenya, but also the coastal areas and places where we have water bodies. But diseases such as dengue is almost everywhere, but coastal Kenya has been affected most with dengue and chikungunya.
Climate change has also played a role in malaria transmission.
Places that we knew will have this kind of mosquitoes are changing to places where we didn't know. Like in Kenya, we've had outbreaks on areas that we never suspected will have malaria, like Marsabit, Baringo, Kajiado, places where malaria is not suspected to be, because mosquitoes love places where there's plenty of water, fresh water, etc.
Most mosquitoes found in these labs are collected from people's homes.
So before for us to do any research, they have to be ethically approved. And KEMRI, we have what we call as a scientific ethics review unit, and this we submit the proposal to them. They approve. They even understand how you're going to access that one mosquito.
We are then taken to the labs where the scientists rear these mosquitoes. Stanley, the lab technologist, takes us through the entire life cycle of a mosquito. Mosquitoes like warmer temperatures, so this room is near sweltering. I bet you're wondering where the mosquitoes get the blood they need to fertilize their eggs. Mosquitoes can feed on animals like pigs, cats, and mice. These particular ones get the blood they need from mice.
When they feed, they just take around 2 to 3 days. They now develop eggs and lay eggs. After getting the eggs now is when we flood in water. After flooding, then the developmental stages starts. First, we will get first instar, then second instar, third instar, and fourth instar. After fourth instar is when you get now the pupae. Pupae now can take around 24 hours to develop to adult mosquito. Here, at the moment, we have those 3 species: Aedes aegypti, Anopheles cambi, and also Culex.
The Ministry of Health has since announced that it will expand the use of the world's first malaria vaccine, especially within Kenya's lake endemic region, which is among major achievements celebrated by these researchers.
This is going to help, especially you don't want your children to suffer from malaria. As we know, malaria really affects children under 5 and pregnant women. So if this vaccine is going to work in that population, then we'll just be remaining to just control in a few, the rest that are remaining.
Joan Junge for KBC.
All right, it's time for a break, but we'll be back in a short while. Do stay with us.
Get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 as your skiza tune. Dial star 811 star 967 hash.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 to 6.
To get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5, dial star 811 star 967 hash. Star 811 star 967 hash.
Unajua siku hizi wateja wanatulipa na simu sana. Na hiyo si shida, hiyo ni poa sana by the way. Lakini sasa shida inatokea, wengine wetu wanachukua hizo namba za wateja, alafu wanaanza kugawana huku nje kama njugu. Bana, inatuharibia kazi.
In this digital era, it's normal to collect information for your client. But if you're collecting information for the client, it's important that you secure it and use it for the intended purpose.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na ofisi ya Data Protection Commissioner. After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
To have clean, accessible drinking water across the county.
The hustle of everyday Kenyans is encouraged and rewarded.
Operationalizing Kerugoya Level 5 Hospital.
A functioning school feeding program.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
The percentage of A's in 2021 were more than those ones in 2022.
We will not politicize security, because if we do so, we endanger the country.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
One of the best ways of accelerating national development is through collaboration with county governments.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
I was part of the team ilitumwa to take out Burhan. Nilikaa for 5 years, nika study the man. All I ask is you let me right my wrongs and give me an opportunity to bring Burhan down for good. Senior Sergeant Farah, a.k.a. Stingray. Opro Ibrahim, a.k.a. Mongoose. Opro Katana, a.k.a. Panther. PC Kibet, a.k.a.
University.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We do this for honor.
Yeah.
Our loved ones, our family, and our country. 1, 2, 3.
Kama imefika ile ifa kudeliver bidhaa kama kawa kuna maswali.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, social media platforms have gained popularity among the youth in Kenya, and it has now become a norm for young people to gather in the capital city's central business district on Sundays to film their content and share their work with the world, which has now become a global village. The city's pavements turn to filming locations, and the streets fill up with a buzz of activities from the youthful creators. Our reporter Yusuf Farah took to the streets and filed the following stories. Take a look.
Kenya's capital city, Nairobi. On Sundays, this city is a safe haven for content creators. From photography to short films and social media challenges, the city's pavements turn into filming locations.
She threw it back. I will do.
Here we meet the funky dance crew taking advantage of the good weather and city backgrounds to film dance videos for their channel. This opening up of the city offers exciting prospects.
open up space tao imesaidia sasa, at least audience inaona Kenya tunaweza fanya na quality poa, so market yetu ina grow.
Rappers and musicians also use the city's buildings and streets as backgrounds for shooting their videos. For them, being allowed to shoot content here allows them to practice their craft to the best of their ability.
It has enabled us such that we have a platform that we can earn more. Actually, the profit margin is almost double.
And the fact that people can create content here, it means that kutakuwa na growth after some time, you know. Yeah, people are dancing, are doing TikTok, are doing IG, all that. It's good.
Most of the content shot here on weekends is likely to find itself on social media applications like Twitter, YouTube, Instagram and TikTok with phenomenal growth. Those who get to enjoy the services of the photographers and content creators are grateful to shoot in a safe space.
Naweza nikapendelea kuanzisha business online, kutumia shoots picha zangu.
For the ones behind the lens, business is booming.
Your work will sustain you here. Your clientele will either grow or deteriorate, you know.
More views means a chance for a larger following and more engagement, which content creators believe brings the economic aspect to content creation. And with social media being the it thing now, there's simply no stopping these youthful content creators.
Yeah, we hope that since in terms of marketing and growth, tutapata kuendosiwa to at least pate some support if it's possible. We'll open up studios, we'll make it easier.
The move to open up the city for content creators has been lauded as a step towards the right direction, because not only are they able to shoot in a safe environment, but they're also able to earn a living from this. Yusuf.
All right, let's now take a look at the day's business. An innovator has developed a charcoal-powered brooder made from clay that has since transformed their socio-economic livelihoods. Here is Ndutamu Kami with the details.
Their premises along Geoffrey Kamau Road in Nakuru City is constantly interrupted as poultry farmers flock into the well-stocked shop to buy brooding pots. The brooder, molded from clay soil, resembles a traditional cooking pot. Bits of charcoal are placed into the pot and lit to release convectional heat to the surrounding to keep the chicks warm. The glowing coals are then covered with wood chippings and ash before the pot's brim is closed. The chicks require heat for the first 5 weeks when feathers are developing, and after this period, they can maintain their own body temperature.
Ni brooding pot, inatumika kulea vifaranga. Ni jiko, imetengenezwa kwa udongo. Unatumia makaa kuweka ndani, alafu unaweka kwa nyumba ya kuku. Kama hii moja inaweza lea vifaranga 300 na itakuwekea moto kwa 30 hours.
A reserved, soft-spoken and reflective Sheila Kai says starting the business was a challenge, but as a team, the group secured a loan as seed capital.
We didn't have much capital. Tulikuwa na 10,000 na 10,000 haingeliweza kununua the pottery wheels, kununua the raw materials, labor. So tuli apply loan na WEF, that was 100,000. From that 100,000, tulikuwa able kuongeza the raw materials.
Sheila notes that the idea was an ideal avenue for women to mobilize and provide opportunities for them to have their own business and access the market for the product at competitive rates.
Wakati kilipokuwa, tukaonelea ni vizuri tujisajili as a self-help group na tuwe na one common goal ya kufanya.
Demand for the brooding pots has tremendously risen both locally and in neighboring countries.
Kenya tumeweza ku reach so many counties, and by God's grace last year tuliweza kufikia 7 countries through hiyo expo ya East Africa.
Ndutamu Kami for Lunchtime News.
And moving on, the European Union has announced new funding of 50 million euros in humanitarian aid for the Southern African region. Mozambique, Lesotho, Malawi and Madagascar are set to benefit from the project in response to food insecurity. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the African continent.
But food insecurity and malnutrition, improve access to basic services, strengthen disaster and response management preparedness, and promote education. Food insecurity is expected to worsen due to a decrease in agricultural production, as well as the effects of the Russia-Ukraine war, which has had an impact on economies across the region. Assistance will reinforce several sector responses to climate and man-made disasters, support emergency education and reinforce levels of disaster preparedness and response. Meanwhile, Africa's largest mobile operator, MTN, has upped its 2022 dividend by double digits as it continues to benefit from higher demand for data on the continent. MTN's reported earnings rose 16.9%, while it upped its final dividend by 10%. Subscribers increased by 6% year-on-year to 289.1 million. Growing 4.4% in South Africa to 36.5 million. Active data subscribers jumped by 12%. MTN had battled with SIM registration issues in Ghana, Nigeria and South Africa. MTN is currently considering offers from minority investors in fintech. Finally, African Development Bank has launched a program to support 512 young agricultural entrepreneurs across the Republic of Cameroon. The AFDB-backed program will train the beneficiary for 1 year. The Enable Youth program is being implemented under the Agricultural Value Chain Development Project, funded through a non-concessional loan Southern Region countries' food insecurity.
And businesses have been urged to use innovative models to overcome accessibility challenges to serve rural communities. A 5 billion shilling program by the MasterCard Foundation Fund for Rural Prosperity that has been implemented over the past 8 years supported a portfolio of 38 private sector businesses to increase financial inclusion through innovative products and services.
Through the fund, participant businesses developed over 171 new financial products and services, surpassing an initial target of 119 by 43%. Their solutions ranged from providing loans and insurance, affordable financing options on agricultural imports, using IT-based solutions to improve credit risk scoring. In the process, nearly 5,000 jobs were created, with at least 38% of them created by women. MasterCard Foundation Fund for Rural Prosperity Engagement Partner at KPMG East Africa, Smita Sangraja, said the fund set out to support 1 million people but ended up reaching over 5 million people. By using these financial products and services, it is expected to improve and transform the lives of people living in rural and agricultural areas. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I'm Tonette Ochola.
And on the international scene, a deal has been agreed for HSBC to buy the UK arm that failed the US Silicon Valley Bank. This is after the US regulators had shut down the Silicon Valley Bank and taken control of its customers' deposits in the largest failure of a US bank since 2008. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines globally.
The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank has raised concerns about the wider risks facing banks as rapid increases in interest rates hit bond markets. Customers and businesses who have money deposited in the Silicon Valley Bank UK will be able to access it as well as other banking services as normal. Silicon Valley Bank, which specialized in lending to technology companies, was shut down by US regulators on Friday in what was the largest failure of a US bank since 2008. 2008. Although the UK arm of Silicon Valley Bank was small, with just over 3,000 business customers, its collapse would have presented a risk for a sector which the government views as pivotal to the UK's future economic success. Elsewhere, Saudi oil giant Aramco has announced a record profit of $161.1 billion for 2022, helped by soaring energy prices and bigger volumes. This represents a 46.5% rise for the state-owned company. It is the latest energy firm to report record profits after energy prices sparked following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Aramco also declared a dividend of $19.5 billion for the October to December quarter of 2022 to be paid in the first quarter of this year. Finally, state regulators have closed New York-based Signature Bank, the third largest failure in the U.S. banking history, 2 days after authorities shuttered Silicon Valley Bank in a collapse that stranded billions in deposits. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation took control of Signature, which had $110.36 billion in assets. The U.S. Treasury Department and other bank regulators said in a joint statement that all of the depositors of Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank will be made whole and no losses will be borne by the taxpayer.
That's the end of business, but let's take a look at a couple more stories. Now, residents from Erestimo location on the Wajir-Mandera border are crying foul over what they term as underdevelopment and poor service delivery in the region. The residents say for the last 19 years, the area has been neglected by successive governments. They are calling on the government to build roads, connect them to electricity, and build hospitals in the region.
5 counties spent 0 shillings on development activities. Residents of the Eresteno location on the Wajir-Mandera border fall partly within the areas flagged as having not reported any expenditure on development, something that the residents are not taking lightly.
Tunataka serikali wetu atubeleke boda upande moja, sio ati tunakaa katikati ya kaunti mbili. Hatuwezi kubali, tumevumilia maka hiyo yote, hatujawahi kukosea serikali yetu ya
Residents of this area rely on livestock. However, with the prolonged drought, it means boreholes have dried up. The residents want the government to intervene and bring services and infrastructure closer to them. Some locals are crossing into neighboring Kadeduma town in Ethiopia in search of water and food.
Mbeleni tulikuwa tuna ngombe, mbuzi, lakini kuanzia hii miaka 5 iliyopita ukame imekuwa mingi, wafugaji wote ikamalizika, hakuna animals moja hata imebaki.
Maji from neighboring country which is Ethiopia. Tunatembea miguu vile mnatona hapa sio Eresteno, hapa ni border ya Kenya na Ethiopia. Tumetembea for almost about 15 kilometers kutafuta maji.
In the latest budget implementation report, development expenditure in counties declined, indicating that it amounted to 11.66 billion shillings, representing an absorption rate of 6.9% and a decline from 13.5% attained in a similar period of financial year 2021-2022. Alan Auko, Lunchtime News.
And in sports, the national junior under-21 men's hockey team started their campaign at the Africa Junior Hockey Cup on a sour note after losing 1-0 to hosts Egypt in Ismailia. The team put up a spirited fight and conceded the sole goal in the 48th minute. Kenya women's team also lost their opening match 2-0 to Egypt. Egypt's Suleiman Rowan and El Fatiri Sama scored in the first quarter, giving their team an early advantage. The men's team will face Zimbabwe in the second match, while the Kenyan ladies will play South Africa this afternoon. The teams are currently placed third in their respective standings. Winners of the round-robin competitions involving Kenya, South Africa, Egypt and Zimbabwe will advance to the 2023 FIH Junior Hockey World Cup, scheduled with the men's competition set to be held in December in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, while the women's event will be held in Santiago, Chile, also in December this year. Brazilian winger Rafinha scored the only goal as Barcelona narrowly beat Atletico Bilbao 1-0 to increase their lead at the top of the La Liga table to 9 points. Meanwhile, Juventus beat Sampdoria 4-2 in the Italian Serie A.
Barcelona extended their lead at the top of La Liga to 9 points above